You are listening to In the Books, a podcast about on-screen adaptations of novels. I'm Michelle. You can find me at Musings on the socials.
I'm Rita. I'm at Annoying Rita on Instagram. And welcome to our discussion of episode 8 of Normal People, aka the one where the gang goes to Italy. When the moon here to ride. So Normal People is an adaptation of the terribly clever Sally Rooney's novel. And we will also be discussing the novel in this podcast. So spoilies all round. As always, We'll start with a recap of the episode. Take it away.
Okay. This episode begins in Vienna, and Connell stares stoically at the art of painting by Johannes Vermeer.
I've just realised that there's a bunch of Italian pronunciation coming up.
Well,
God help me.
Pray for us. The camera cuts to his filthy-looking trainers to remind us that while he may be in one of the most expensive cities in Europe, he is most definitely backpacking. We then cut to Terese, Italy, guessing. A taxi
I thought
drops
it was Trieste, but I might be wrong.
Is it Trieste? Trieste? Okay, we'll go with Trieste. A taxi drops Nall and Connell off on the edge of a gigantic, historic country estate. They both look disheveled, like they haven't washed in days, and the contrast between the backpackers and Peggy, who is the first to greet them to Marianne's place, couldn't be more stark. She is dressed like a glamorous grandma with flowing, colorful caftan and statement earrings. They, on the other hand, look low-key homeless. While Peggy plays hostess, offering Nall a drink, Connell wanders out and finds Marianne pegging up laundry. And it's sort of shot like she is Sophia Loren in The Gold of Naples. There is twinkly music and Connell goes full heart eyes emoji. Nall then arrives and gives Marianne a big bear hug, and she playfully suggests they both take a shower.
Yeah, everyone looks quite sweaty this episode, which is
yeah.
fair.
They're clearly deep in the funk.
After his shower, which we get to watch, thank you to director Hetty McDonald. Thank you. Connell comes down to the kitchen and finds Marianne and Jamie arguing. Must be the day ending in Y. When Connell enters the room, they both stop and pretend everything's fine. It's way too late. Connell grabs a beer and tries to get the Wi-Fi password. Marianne suggests that if he wants to make a Skype call to Helen, remember Helen, he should head down to the pool. Because of course, there's a pool. Connell does head on down there and calls up his very lovely girlfriend, who is dying for deets about Marianne's Italian mansion. Very relatable. This was the time where I was like, am I Helen in this? They crack jokes about Marianne serving figs and artichokes in her gigantic Italian mansion. Remember, Connell is a beans on toast kind of a guy, so this is different. Yeah. When Connell heads back inside, he finds Peggy and Marianne preparing dinner. We love gender roles. No, just kidding. And offers to help. If anyone needs toast making, beans opening the can, he's your guy. But Marianne asks him to join her on a trip to the shop instead. Probably safer. They grab 2 bikes and have a fun montage of a time on their way to the local town. When they get to the small shop, they browse and pay, and the local shopkeeper chats to Marianne in Italian like an old friend. And Marianne's Italian is way better than mine. When they leave, they grab a gelato and go sit in the piazza and talk. Just casual.
They talk about how different Connell's life is now following his scholarships. Foreign cities, famous artworks, and historical artifacts all feel more tangible to him now that he has finance freedom. Money is what makes the world real. Marianne tells him she's happy for him, but admits that she doesn't really think about her finances that much.
I know.
Connell kind of shuts down, and she realizes it was an ignorant thing to say and apologizes. Thank God she's quick on the uptake. She suggests that she needs to start thinking about her privilege more. I'll say, goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. She tells him she is conscious of the fact that Lorraine works for her mother for fuck all money, and that was basically the whole impetus for their relationship. She asks how they have never discussed this before. Good question. And Connell tells her he doesn't resent her. He is just having a hard time processing his change of fortunes. Marianne offers him some great advice. If you think that people should be able to go to college and get English degrees and go to Europe and look at art, then you shouldn't feel guilty for yourself because you have every right to. They then head to their bikes to head home, and Marianne tells him she has been enjoying his emails and that he writes really beautifully. She asks how writing his book is coming along, and he tells her they aren't as good as the emails.
Maybe he could write an email book. I don't know. Just mull it over.
Mm-hmm.
Insert a pun about an appetite for destruction here because it's time for dinner and a show. The dinner is spaghetti because that's apparently the only thing Marianne can cook. And Marianne brings out some champagne to pair with it. This is benign enough, except Jamie immediately takes umbrage with the glasses. Oh, Philistine. Marianne chose and calls them gravy floats. Marianne explains that the coupes are just an older style and that they belong to her dad. Jamie makes a snide remark about not realising the glasses were of such emotional issue for her, and everyone around the table looks uncomfortable as hell. Niall and Peggy make a valiant effort to try and make pleasant small talk over the complete awkwardness. Marianne asks about the boys' summer tour of Europe, and Jamie immediately cuts in, asking why on earth they would want to spend their summer on trades and hostels. And Niall, good-natured as ever, tells him they wanted to meet new people and see some of the world on a budget. Connell says he enjoyed standing in front of Vermeer's art of painting. Niall interjects with the fact Connell stood in front of it for a whole day. Truly psychopathic behaviour. Or that guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off that just stares at the... I don't remember.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he just... I don't know what painting it is. Because the close-up was just dots, you know. Jamie seems completely baffled at the thought of enjoying art and goes off on a rant about how Interrailing is just a tick-box tour and they never got to experience anything the place has to offer. He was very much just looking to start a fight, and Marianne, finding the tension too much, heads to the kitchen to have another deep breath and calm down. She's going to need a lot of those.
When she returns with another bottle of wine, Jamie has now decided he wants to passive-aggressively attack Connell with comments about how the scholarship has changed Connell's life from working in a garage, living with his mum. Marianne is clearly annoyed, and when Jamie asks her to get fresh glasses, she says, go for it, in a tone that says, get it your fucking self, you entitled ass. Peggy gets up to find the glasses. Marianne turns to Connell and Niall and suggests they go to Venice while they are staying. Connell would like the Guggenheim. It has a picture by Duchamp called The Sad Young Man on a Train, and Connell jokingly asks if that's how she sees him.
Perfect.
Peggy returns with the glasses as Jamie watches this entirely pleasant conversation in a fury. He grabs the wine glass and sloshes red wine on the table. There is an awkward silence before Jamie starts arguing that they shouldn't bother with Venice. It's going to be heaving with Asian tourists. Everyone sort of cringes at his burst of racism, but Connell calls him out on it by saying, God forbid you might actually encounter an Asian person, Jamie. Marianne rolls her eyes and leaves the table to get dessert.
But this scene is still not over. In the kitchen, Peggy's like, oh my god, are you okay? But Marianne is in full Stepford wife denial mode and just apologizes for Jamie being drunk. Peggy's like, Go, what? You know it's not just him. The entire tension exists because you invited your ex-boyfriend to spend the summer with you and your new boyfriend. That's bloody weird. What on earth were you thinking? Marianne sort of blinks and processes that this might have been a bad idea, but before she says anything, Peggy ruins her rare emotional insight into a situation by defending Jamie. He might be an asshole, but he fucking adores Marianne. Oh, shut up, Peggy. I think the problem is the being an asshole bit, but that's just my 2 cents. Okay.
Yeah.
So the 2 ladies head back out to the table and put down a bowl of strawberries for dessert. Niall and Connell thank them for their hard work for the meal. Jamie takes one look at the bowl and says, "Where's the cream?" Marianne takes a sip of wine before telling him it's inside. Well, why wouldn't you bring it out? Marianne and Peggy share a furious look, and Marianne storms off to the kitchen. Jamie looks annoyed and then follows after her.
Peggy continues to dish out the strawberries over the argument happening in the kitchen. Peggy asks how the strawberries are. Niall, not having taken a single bite but fully committing to the small talk, tells her they are really lovely. Peggy admits they aren't local, they're from Spain. A shrill scream erupts from the kitchen, and Connell charges back into the house. He finds a drunk Jamie swirling a glass of red wine around and around again, spilling it everywhere. Marianne tells him to put the glass down, so he vindictively overpours the glass with wine and then smashes it to the ground. Marianne takes a running leap at him, completely willing to get into a brawl, but Connell intervenes and pulls her out of the room while Jamie calls her fucking deranged. They head down to the pool where Connell comforts her, and they share a tense, relieving cigarette. She asks if she can stay in his room that night.
Cut to Connell's bedroom. After washing up, they both awkwardly get into what, to be fair, is a gigantic bed that could fit 5 people. They lie in the dark, and Marianne begins to unburden herself. She asks why she can't make people love her. Connell is just confused and tells her she has people who loves her, her friends, her family. And as soon as he said the word family, my palm hit my face. Marianne decides to finally be honest and explain to him the real relationship she has with her family. Last time she was home, her brother told her he wished she was dead and that no one would miss her. Her mother was in the room at the time and did nothing. Connell finds this very confusing. He is the product of a loving environment, after all, and he asks why this would happen. What were they discussing? As if context might help this entirely disgusting thing. But Marianne explains that she too wonders if she does something to deserve this abuse. Connell then asks why she never said anything about this to him. Like, the whole time they were together, he thought her family was just a regular kind of awful. She admits she didn't want him to see her as damaged. He says, "Jesus Christ, come here," in like a very Irish way, like the fully the most Jesus Christ Irish you've ever heard. And then pulls her close to comfort her. After a very long hug, they begin to kiss. As things start to heat up, Marianne remembers he has a girlfriend and pulls away. Connell apologizes, and then they lie there in the dark, looking at the ceiling in horny confusion and pain.
Yes. Oh, God. Oh. We then cut to Marianne, Peggy, Connell, and Niall on the train. A sadder piano cover of "Love Will Tear Us Apart" plays in the background. Peggy scrolls on her phone. Niall is asleep, a glorious callback to an earlier line about Niall sleeping through long journeys. And Connell reads. He looks up and watches Marianne brood out the window. When they arrive at the Guggenheim, Connell stares at sad young man on a train. Marianne comes to stand beside him, and they both look at it in a trance. The end.
Yes. Okay, so we've finally arrived at Italy. Did it live up to my incessant hype? Say yes.
it was lovely. It was just another reminder that these episodes are too painfully short.
I'm not sure I could have handled any more though. Like too much tension.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say, okay, it's not too terribly short, but what I found myself realizing as the credits rolled was, oh yes, this is only 30 minutes. It's not an hour-long show. And I think that goes to demonstrate just how much they're able to pack into 30 minutes and not making it feel rushed at all. Like they have all this stuff that they got to get in, and oh my God, if we don't get in 30 minutes, we're screwed. They have worked with the book in their adaptation and have done a really fantastic job of looking for the core of the story and being able to tell that story in the time allotted. And it was great. It was brilliant. I loved all of the scenes outside and sunshine, and it was lovely. A lovely thing to watch, as we're getting out of winter into spring.
Just like, remember sunshine?
Yeah, please, can I have this now, please?
Yeah, I love this episode, as I have made very, very obvious. One of my favorite things about it is the dinner. I mean, the dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And each time I rewatch it, it gets better. Like, I spot new tiny micro expressions or like different people making eye contact that just elevates it even higher. Like, it's another example of the show doing a scene that feels like something you could watch in like the West End, like a play, because they have the balls to stay with this one uncomfortable scene for like most of the episode, and the way that the conversation like crescendos. There are moments where you think like the tension is just too much, and then Niall will undercut it with a joke and the scene continues, and it's just you're kind of on eggshells just waiting for something dramatic to happen. And I feel like, I don't know, it feels like being at the dinner table. Like, we've all been at a dinner table where we're like, oh, usually,
this is awkward. Yes.
Usually it's around the holidays and you're just like, oh, who's going to say something? Yeah, and just watching it unfold from a safe distance was fantastic. Yeah. It's like, this ain't about me. I could just watch this. Kind of, and like, it's just beautifully shot in like the most idyllic location. It's lovely. I like that you get to just spend time with them. Even though it's only half an hour, you feel like there's room to breathe in these scenes, and like there's tense silences, and you just get to sit with the characters, which is fantastic.
Yeah. I agree. And, as much as, we have been talking all kinds of trash at Jamie for the last couple episodes, I've got to give him credit. He really just went for it. With his performance. And this scene where, he's talking about the champagne glasses, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, you Philistine. Oh,
I much prefer coupes as well to drink out of. I don't like flutes. I don't like that. You absolute idiot.
Yeah.
Who has an emotional attachment to flutes? Weirdo.
But I thought that he did a terrific job, and his performance up to this episode has all been a setup so that he could really just let the green-eyed monster run riot through the trip to Italy. So, I thought that they did a great job. I was, I found myself getting angrier and angrier alongside Marianne, and to the when he says, "Well, where's the cream?"
Oh,
I was just like, "Bitch, you better not."
I would have got the cream and tipped it over his head.
Oh yeah, it would have gone straight over his head.
It's just the misogyny of that entire interaction.
Yes.
Ugh.
Oh my God.
Everything about him is awful.
Yeah. Just oh God. But we can talk more about that in a second. What did you think, book versus the episode?
We've discussed it a little, but like 90% of the book is flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You know how we love time jumping.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And in the novel, the discussion about money took place in Dublin before they got to Italy. And I actually think the scene improved for me with the location change to Italy, because I think it makes much more sense for the full weight of Connell's discomfort to really hit him while he's on his exciting European adventure that he never would have got if he was if he didn't get the scholarship. That's when the full reality would hit. So I think there is a clear advantage to the chronological approach to the storytelling. The one disadvantage, I would say, is that in this chapter of the novel, there is a lot more of a relationship with Helen discussed.
Yes.
I mean, at this point, they're in a pretty serious relationship that's lasted for way longer than he was with Marianne, but you can't really know that in the show. And I find the way he talks about that relationship in the book fascinating, because he is 100% seeing her as a lifestyle choice rather than as a person. I'm with a nice normal girl. See, she's so normal.
Yes.
The overuse of the word normal is also a red flag.
Yeah.
I think that's right for analysis. Especially from a mental health care professional. Please, someone intervene with this man. But
yes.
I don't think she is much of a person in the show, and I don't have many problems with that, because I know for a fact that they delve into his relationship with her in an episode further along, and also, like, similarly to somebody like Jamie or like Gareth, she's not the point. Like, this isn't about you, unfortunately, Helen.
Yeah.
As fun as your jokes about figs and artichokes are, we didn't come for you. So
yes,
I can understand them writing her off, really.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that one of the things that I wished that we could have seen or heard a little bit more about was the emails that he was exchanging with Marianne. Because if I remember correctly, while we don't get, read these emails, of course, I think that I could sense how much she enjoyed them when I was reading the book. And I appreciated very much that they did have a line in there acknowledging them in the show, because it was something that I thought was kind of a pivotal part of Marianne and Connell's relationship.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, but I thought that they did a great job.
If anybody is interested in reading a slightly, like, there's like a little moment in the novel where Connell has this idea of like, oh, maybe I should write a story that's based around emails, and then Sally Rooney just released, it's like 2021, that's a long time ago. But But that was last week, if you ask me. But A Beautiful World Where You Are, which is one of her last novels, was basically that idea. I was like, oh, you're self-plagiarizing there.
Oh gosh,
Highly recommend.
that's
Quite
funny.
a good book.
That's funny.
Sally Rooney, you have like 3 ideas and you're just rotating them. Like any good novelist.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about characters.
Yes.
I find the Marianne Jamie relationship interesting because Marianne straight up just hates Jamie.
Yeah.
She hates him, and everything he said was eliciting an eye roll or just like uncomfortable that she just straight up froze.
Yeah. It, and you could see it, with each thing that he was saying, just the tenseness in her whole body was just becoming more and more pronounced. Until of course we get to the big explosion in the kitchen. But I, honest to God, if you hate someone that much, then they're absolutely not worth your time to spend with them, and to spend with them in a close romantic relationship.
Obviously, she's just doing it because she hates herself, and she's like, I deserve to be in a terrible relationship. Marianne, get therapy. Dump your boyfriend.
You need it. And you've gotta know, you gotta think that he realizes that.
Oh,
don't
yeah.
You?
Look, there was a moment at the world's worst dinner party where Marianne recommended a painting to Connell, and she looked like so happy, and it was just like a nice, pleasant conversation. And the look in Jamie's face, he is like, oh my God, you treat me like shit compared to him, like you hate me. And he went from being just like a general dickhead who complains about everything to like a purposefully malicious dickhead who wanted to discuss how poor Connell was. Like immediately he's like, let's bring up that he lives with his mum.
Ugh.
And I think he feels intellectually inferior to both of them. And when he sees them bonding over anything remotely intellectual, he has to ruin it. Yeah. We're not going to fucking Venice. Why would you stare at a painting? Why are you on a train? So that he feels like he has the upper hand. For someone so pompous, Jamie is really transparently insecure, and I feel like he needs therapy too. But I'm not sure he can be fixed.
Honestly, I think all of these people, with maybe the exception of Niall, could use some therapy.
Niall is like Niall and Joanna, just like guys.
They're rays of sunshine.
They're just like watching the chaos around them. Like everyone needs help.
I
find like, okay, we got another episode where Marianne makes another dig about Jamie's height. And like, not to defend Jamie, because everything about him is awful. Of all the things that is wrong about Jamie, being short
his height,
not it.
His height is really not one of them.
Not the... I got really tired of those jokes, honestly, from Marianne. It's like if she had any sort of like respect for him, even as a friend, she wouldn't be making comments like that. I think for that I was just like, oh, Marianne, don't make me judge you. But then I always ended up agreeing with Peggy when she was like, you're inciting this fight. You are. Like, you've invited your ex-boyfriend so that you can end this relationship. And I think that's definitely what happened. Speaking of Peggy. Oh my God. You know how we say Marianne has performative costuming? Well, Peggy.
Yes.
Peggy was really, really trying it. She was like...
Peggy was living her 1960s, 1970s dream.
Just like full glamorous Italian grandmother mode. Like, she was wearing a Missoni bikini and like this garish caftan thing with gigantic earrings, but she was just so tanned as well that it was like,
oh
it
yeah,
was it just with her bleach blonde hair,
ugh.
it was. I don't know what was going on with that.
It was
Peggy.
it was a it was almost caricature. But I know that they were doing it for effect. But yeah. And while she is bringing up, the whole, Marianne, you've basically you set the stage for this to just explode because you brought your ex-boyfriend on a trip with your current boyfriend.
Like, that hate each other. They hate each other, we all know.
Yeah, did you think they were gonna just become buds all of a sudden? But when Peggy then begins to defend Jamie, it was just like, woman, did you hear what he said? How can you defend anyone who spews that kind of garbage to a person that you call a friend? Although, I have feelings about whether or not Peggy is a friend.
She's not a friend.
Yeah.
She's basically single white femaling Marianne,
Mm-hmm.
acting as hostess. I find her whole performative domestic labor thing, we know why Marianne's doing it. Peggy hates that shit. She is lazy. Yeah. It's one of the things I respect about her. The fact that she was running around in her little caftan bikini being like, oh, I'm unshelling these things. Like, that's not you. This is not you. You're just trying to be like Marianne.
Yes.
Unhealthy dynamic. And even the way she was the one that greeted them was very weird. They have this whole dynamic that's also not healthy.
Yeah. I think if Peggy had been Joanna,
Joanna would have hit Jamie.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when Connell and Nall first arrive, if that had been Joanna, then that would have been, just lovely. You're like, oh, okay, Marianne, she's out back. Come on in, that kind of thing. Instead of Peggy, who is basically appropriating lady of the house from Marianne.
Marianne's not even doing that as well. She's just like, this is my house.
And Peggy's just like, oh, yes, come in, darling.
Well, that's because how much Peggy's whole shtick is wealth and power. And that's why I think Jamie seems like the right choice to her, because she's much more interested in the lifestyle Jamie can provide. She's like, you should be with the rich asshole. Oh, what's Connell got going for him? Just a healthy relationship with his mother? Ugh.
He's got integrity.
Ugh. Well, does he? Anyway, because speaking of Connell's integrity, he cheats on Helen.
Yeah, he does.
He really does, and he only stops because of Marianne.
Yeah.
He full on forgot about his girlfriend.
Yeah, when they started kissing in that bed, I was just like, don't you dare. Don't you dare. It is not fair to Helen at all. Jamie, I could give a flying what about.
Well, she broke up with Jamie. I feel like, I know, if this was Friends, everyone would be like, oh my God, you can't get with someone the same night. I'm like, no, you can.
You can. But Helen has done absolutely nothing to deserve his infidelity at all. And
real talk, I don't really like Helen from the
book.
Yeah,
me neither.
Awful,
I mean,
but have some respect.
Yeah.
Not only for Helen, but for himself, that he's willing to. Oh, I don't know. I don't trust Connell's horniness levels. It's just... tell you what though, it feels like a really honest moment of like, yeah, Connell's great, but he's not above cheating. That's not something that he wouldn't do. Most people under the right, I fully believe, like, if you catch them in the right moment, they are capable. Because people are very, I don't feel like we have as much integrity as we like to pretend, like full disclosure. I feel like people be lying. And Connell's not above making some terrible mistakes that hurt people, as we have already discussed.
As we have seen.
Yeah.
As we have seen.
I will say, as much as I don't like Helen, the comment about the figs, I was like, that is something I would say, which is funny because as a Southern European, I'm very aware of just how figs are fucking everywhere. They're not. In England, or apparently in Ireland, figs are like very expensive. Fresh figs, you can't get them. They are a class marker. In the south of Europe, God, do you know how many times my grandma has been like, take these 50 figs with you? And I'm like, I don't fucking like figs. What am I going to do with 50 figs? So, to Helen, this feels like a performative display of wealth and glamour. But to Marianne, she's just like, I've got all these fucking figs we need to eat, mate.
We need to just eat these things. Yeah. So I'm going to serve them all the time.
Yeah.
Just deal with it, people. That was pretty great.
I love that comment from her.
Yeah.
Get Helen a stand-up comedy where she just, like, makes digs about Marianne. What is funny is, like, the line where she said, oh, that's classic Marianne. I was like, you don't know her well enough to be saying that.
Yeah. Unless Connell has been, like, talking her up, which I wouldn't expect him to do.
Connell doesn't talk. That's insane.
Yeah. Are we thinking that there's been substantial enough time that has happened from the episode before Italy to Italy for them to, and by them I mean Helen and Marianne, to have met, once or twice or something like that?
So in the novel, they'd met once.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like they maybe met once, and Helen was like, oh, I know who you are, because, Marianne's a cliche.
Yeah.
Again, this is something I would do. I meet people and then I'm like, you're a rich girl.
It's like, you are fitting this archetype.
I feel like I am Helen, and that's problematic of me, even though I don't like Helen. I relate to her. People I do like. Niall.
Yes.
This was a tour de force performance. Nice guy till the end. Stuck in an awkward situation.
Love him so much.
His little jokes during the dinner, amazing.
Yes. You're trying to lighten the mood.
He managed to call Jamie out on some shit, but in such a friendly way. I think my favourite line was when Jamie was complaining about Venice and he went, yeah, that's what everyone says, get to fuck Venice.
Oh God. Yeah. That scene would have been absolutely unbearable if we did not have Niall in the scene. Can you imagine?
Loved watching Niall and Peggy interact. The line about the strawberries, for some reason, cracks me up. Because he's like, these are the best strawberries ever, and he has not touched them.
Oh, you guys doing your best to try and keep a lid on things. And, yeah.
He is doing all the work, and Connell is just sat there morosely, and you're just like, oh.
Yes. Oh, Connell.
Connell, you're the whole reason they're there. Like, come on.
Yeah. Okay, our dashing duo, Marianne and Connell, get into discussions about class once again, which I thought that this one went really pretty well.
Thank God they actually fucking talked about it. Oh my God.
Yes.
It was really refreshing to have Connell actually discuss it because, as we've discussed it previously in the novels, he thinks about it all the bloody time but never actually voices any of his concerns.
Yeah.
So it was great to have him just like feel comfortable enough to say it. And then I don't know how long they've been friends, but it's took him fucking years. Marianne admitting that she never actually thinks about money felt very authentic. I did like a whole like I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. She was being real because she's just like, yeah, Connell, you need some euros. Here's 300 euros. Yeah, here you go. I don't have to worry about paying rent. Have fun.
Oh God, Marianne, you need a wake up call. And I think that the conversations and the discussions that she's having with Connell are helping to open her eyes to, as well as the experiences that she's having in college, are opening her eyes to be a little more aware. She's got a ways to go, but
huge ways.
But
she's already just realized there's a problem.
But it was good to hear her admit, that she's gotta work on her own biases and privilege. Instead of having someone tell her that she has to do it, she's saying, "I know I need to do this," and recognizing that in herself. So, well done, you two.
Tiniest of applauses for Marianne.
Yes.
I was very proud that this episode they had like a communication breakthrough. We got them finally discussing money, and Marianne telling Connell about the full extent of her
of the family situation.
I'd say psychological abuse is going on. Both times
that too.
They were like, Connell was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And she was like, "Why haven't we discussed the money thing?" I find it interesting that it took them being in Italy and both in different relationships to finally open up this way. It's like the pressure was off. It wasn't so intense. Like they had a escape hatch waiting so they could finally talk about the things that fucked them up in the first place. The difference between the scene in the show and the novel, I mean, what I love about the novel is just how incredibly brutal some of the things are. So she says to him, like, "I didn't want you to see me as damaged." And in the novel, he's hugging her, and internally he's like thinking about it, and he admits to himself that he kind of already saw her as damaged. Like he's like, "No, well, I think deep down I did see you as damaged, which is why I wanted to avoid being in a relationship with you." Obviously, he's not stupid enough to say it out loud, thank God.
Right. Seriously.
But
he'll be like, "You were doing so good, and then shot yourself in the foot."
But I think, like, what I loved about that was it gave me a really great insight into why he felt so ashamed of being attracted to her. And I think he sees his attraction to her as an admission that he is also damaged. Like, if he was normal, he wouldn't love her as intensely as he does. And so he pretended he was quote unquote normal. And I think that's the attraction to Helen, but we'll get into that in a later episode. Yeah, and I think that was what was so psychologically hard for him, because he's not really ready to admit that he might be just as damaged as her. He's all like, "Oh no, I need to be normal. She's the one that's making me damaged." It's like, even when you don't talk to her, you get really depressed, Connell.
It's like, you're drinking a shit ton of alcohol. You're basically walking around as a poster child for clinical depression.
You really is.
You are also damaged in a way. So, I am looking forward to how the rest of the show plays out. As we get to a point where
I love some self-awareness from Connell for once.
Yeah.
Christ, Connell, just admit you're a little bit damaged. Like, at least with Marianne. Marianne knows and can admit to herself. Connell is still running around like, I'm normal, look at my relationship with Helen. Ha ha ha. It's like, no, mate.
See, everything's great. Twitch, twitch, twitch.
Okay, Connell, we'll see how long that lasts. Okay, favorite performances.
I am, I've already said that, I think that the guy that is playing Jamie, Fionn O'Shea, I have the cast list up in front of me. I think that he did a really terrific job. And figuring that that's the last we're going to see of him, I'm hoping, please God, please. But I think otherwise, I'm going to give it to Daisy Edgar Jones this week for really navigating her way through all of the emotions that were playing across her face and through her body as we got through that dinner from hell. I thought that she was great this week.
I would pick Fionn O'Shea as well. I just thought he was fantastic at winding everyone up.
Yeah.
But he played it such a, not in a villainous moustache twirling way, but in a, you could meet this guy on the street and just think he's a bit of a dick kind of way. Yeah. I found him very convincing and almost sympathetic. Like, this is the first time where I was like, oh, this relationship is bringing out the worst in him, because he's just, it's like she's just hitting all of his insecurity buttons every time. And obviously he needs to go work on that, but it's like this special dynamic has developed where they're both just the absolute worst to each other. Toxic as fuck.
Yes.
Okay, favorite scenes. What's your favorite scene?
The dinner party. I also loved the montage of them riding the bikes down into town and then sitting in the piazza and talking. I absolutely loved that. It was just beautiful.
I think the dinner scene for the drama is obviously just one of the greatest things you will ever see.
Yeah.
But I too love all of the scenes in whatever town that was supposed to be. As a Southern European girly, I just find the colour palette, the dilapidated buildings, the aesthetic of that tiny supermarket, also super comforting. I feel like I'm in a safe space, which is crazy. Not Italian. But I do find it comforting, and just there's something about the sunshine as well that makes all of the depression hit harder and also the happiness hit harder. It's the whole also love the fact that Daisy improvised the "cuddle you Egypt" line while he's on the bike. Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough. Okay.
Costumes, hair, and makeup. Well, I know we've talked about Peggy's get-up. How about the rest of them?
Well, obviously we need to talk about the fact that Marianne had 3 outfit changes over the course of one afternoon.
Oh my God.
I mean, what is that about Marianne? Her first dress, when she's hanging up all of the washing, actually might be my favourite, because it reminds me of a sort of 60s Nonna-inspired, house dress, house coat type of thing, A-line. But obviously a little bit sluttier than anything my grandmother would wear, but very sort of domestic. It's like she's role-playing domestic goddess. She would never wear that to classes or anything. It's like she bought this dress to hang out in her in her mansion, her Italian mansion.
Yes. Yes, her Italian
fun.
mansion.
And then the black spaghetti strap dress. Very popular. I remember during lockdown, everyone was like, "Where can I find this dress?" Like, I think it's not going to look as good on us, okay? Daisy Edgar Jones looks like a supermodel. But yeah.
Yes.
That kind of reminded me of Audrey Hepburn in Roman Holiday.
Roman Holiday, yeah.
On the bikes.
I had the exact same thought. I was like, oh my gosh, she's living her Roman Holiday dreams. We just needed a little Vespa.
Look, if they could have got a Vespa, they would have, but...
Yes.
Where are you going to find one?
God, that would have been adorable.
That would have been... I think that would have been, like, taking it over the edge into pastiche. But the thing is, like, that look is so simple and elegant and whirls away from what she dresses like in Dublin,
Ireland.
which just makes me think, like, again, this is a costume.
Yep.
Okay, and then finally we have her third outfit change for dinner. She's gone for, like, almost like a mod 60s look with those huge drop earrings. She styled her hair in, like, with the bangs are the most bangiest they've ever been.
Yes.
And the dress is like this. It's a fairly simple silhouette, but it's got all these, like, cutouts and circular patterns. Very 60s.
It's got a little tight cinched waist.
Yes.
Yeah.
She reminded me of, like, 60s Jane Birkin, like, with the hair and the tan. It was, like, definitely not Stevie Nicks. Like, Stevie Nicks would never wear this.
No. God, no. But yeah, really great costumes this week. And, you know, the locations and photography, you know, obviously, the photography was stunning. And as we talked about last night, you know, the blue filters went away and we had, you know, like nothing but sunny yellow filters on everything. Yeah, it was just wonderful and really helped to lift my spirits you know, as we're crawling our way out of winter and into spring. You know, we have little bursts of beautiful weather here and there, and, you know, like the flowers are coming out and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so,
living vicariously through their summer holiday.
Yeah. The folks in the Pacific Northwest are coming out of their hibernation caves and are starting to get out and about.
Blinking into the daylight, like.
Yes. And this episode really did just lend itself to lifting my mood. So,
yay.
It's a great treatment for sad.
Oh no, you're not gonna like next week's then. Okay. So in the novel, it's mentioned that Marianne is placed as near Trieste. I don't know how to pronounce that. Which is kind of like, if anybody ever has looked this up, it's closer to Slovenia and Croatia than it is to Rome. Like, you know how they say Italy looks like a high-heeled boot? Well, right at the top, like, it's basically the leg. Like, it's a part of Italy that I often forget is there. Sorry to you, Italy. Anyway, but obviously the show didn't film there. Because it's very fucking expensive. Weirdly, the higher up you go...
That's odd.
If Germans and Austrians can get there in under 2 hours to have their little summer holiday, it's going to be expensive. That's the vibe.
Okay.
So they actually filmed in Stivignano. That's what I'm going for.
God, we're horrible.
Stivignano, a small hilltop town just north of Rome. I think about like an hour away from Rome. You know, for logistic reasons, they wanted to film somewhere cheaper. Apparently, the villa is on Airbnb.
Oh.
So, another goal for our podcast, we could hire it out and act out our inner Irish angst for the week. You know, have horrible dinners, serve figs, get very drunk. The other scenes in the episode were shot in location to Vienna at the Guggenheim, obviously. Oh, wait, Venice at the Guggenheim, and then, oh, God. Kunsthistorisches and the Kunsthistorisches Museum of Vienna.
You know what we should do? We should have, go to an AI chat and have it pronounce these things, record those, and then plug those in.
I think people enjoy watching us fail.
Yeah.
It's good. It's comedy gold. Like, Kunsthistorisches.
Oh,
I think I'm just going to say it with confidence, pretend that's how you say it, Kunsthistorisches. If you can speak German, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
we
Museum
apologize.
in Vienna. But it's crazy, like, as soon as you see the shot of him in the museum, you're like, oh yeah, he's in fucking Vienna. Like, they just be filming in museums. They actually took him there and stuck him in front of the painting.
Hey, that's what that sweet production money's for.
That's where the BBC spent all its coin. We couldn't get wigs that fit anybody on Poldark, but,
No, but you can send someone off to Vienna. Alrighty then.
Anyway, what's Connell reading? So, not many books, but on the train to Venice, Connell is reading Arthur Miller's 1946 play All My Sons, which is a tragedy set during the Second World War. Like, this story is complicated, but basically, one of the characters, Joe, is responsible for sending defective engines to the US Army and causing the deaths of 21 pilots. And throughout the play, he insists his motivation is his family and improving their lives, and I did it all for you. And the heart of the play is quite an obvious criticism of the American dream. And as a result, Arthur Miller was called to appear before the House of Un-American Activities Committee during the 1950s.
Of course he was.
Because how dare you criticize anything American?
Yep.
It was obviously chaired by McCarthy, so that's fun vibes. And this is a fantastic pick for Connell to read following his discussion about money with Marianne, because he is definitely grappling with the discomfort he feels with pursuing his, let's face it, quite middle-class aspirations of seeing Europe versus his communist principles, which are that I should be equal with everyone. I just thought that was such a good choice for him. That's quite a short play. That's a nice, easy read on the way to Venice. That's what you want to... You want a tragedy where loads of people shoot themselves.
Yeah, that sounds like a great one to read.
Once I would just like him to read something light and frothy. We get him reading like a Jackie Collins or something. That would be...
Oh, God.
Okay, anything you didn't like?
Anything that I didn't like? No. I mean, this show is spectacular. So, they're gonna have to really bung something up for me to find something that I didn't like.
How many communist AI? I don't think the show has flaws. I think it's perfect. How many communist manifestos out of 5?
6.
At a point, I did
okay,
worry.
I'll go with 5.
Yeah, I did worry you with 5. Like 666. That's the devil's number.
No, I will go with 5.
Me
it was fantastic.
Too. It was.
Yep.
Can we always stay in Italy? Fantastic. By the way,
bellissimo.
That's the most Italian we've sounded all. Hey, inbox. Well, Rita, here we are in La Bella Italia. Even the music reflects the loveliness of the Italian countryside, sunshine, crickets, heat, and the generic sense of summer. Oh, general sense of summer. Generic. Am I okay? I think I might be having a stroke. The only thing that could ruin it is Jamie, and he does.
Yes.
My God, could Jamie be any more patronising to everyone? He's doing a great job of being the villain here. I must say that I had an overarching nauseous feeling in my stomach as the story unfolded, and when it all started to unravel, Peggy's comments of, "He's an asshole, but he adores you," doesn't help.
Ugh.
Seriously, Peggy, that is not an excuse. I hate that nobody takes Jamie's attitude on, but I guess we have all been around toxic people in such circumstances and wonder, is it worth me sticking up my neck right now? I do appreciate Niall's quick retort of, unlike pissing around in your girlfriend's Italian villa for the entire summer. When Jamie tries to put them down for spending the summer travelling around on trains and, taking in the culture. Kudos to Niall.
Yes.
Can I just say, if there were any Italians sitting around that dinner table and Jamie said those things, they would not have stayed silent, just saying. And then we've got the classic Italian hand emoji. I don't think Italians can stay quiet. That is my theory that I put out there. As the dinner scene progresses, I felt more distressed by this building scenario with Jamie and Marianne. The only beautiful thing about this scene is Connell jumping to save Marianne, who's just aching to protect and care for her. I'm ruminating on how I feel about Jamie from the book I read. Quote, Jamie has been a continual object of loathing and derision for Connell since he became Marianne's boyfriend. For several months, he had compulsive fantasies of kicking Jamie in the head until his skull was the texture of wet newspaper. End quote. Yes, Sally Rooney, I couldn't have said it any better myself. This encapsulates how I feel about him too. Enough with Jamie. Honestly. Sally Rooney, queen.
Mm-hmm.
Cut forward to the scene of Connell comforting Marianne in bed, and she says, "Why can't I make people love me?" I believe she just kept surrounding herself with people who are not worthy of her, except for Connell. And Joanna! Why has it not occurred to her that she has been moulded to feel this way? She isn't entirely to blame for those feelings, but when she finally reveals the reality of her family dynamic, poor Connell is genuinely distressed to hear this. Breaks my heart. Perhaps he's now reflecting on how good his relationship with his mum actually is. He's just aching to protect and care for Marianne. How can he make her see she deserves to be loved, and she may be damaged, but not beyond repair? I would say that this chapter in the novel has a slightly different tone than in the series. In the book, we hear more about his good feelings for Helen and their relationship, whilst he is at the villa reflecting on both his relationships with these two women. I'm wondering why they barely mention or reflected on Helen in this episode. I've not read or watched ahead, but I guess his relationship with Helen must be highlighted at a later point. Ding, ding, ding. Also, I did prefer their discussion about their perspectives on their scholarship and money, and their associated guilt about it all taking place in the Italian piazza with gelato. It felt more organic than how it played out in the book. And anyway, every conversation is better with gelato. Why wasn't Connell eating any? This is what kills me. I'm like, babe, take advantage. I love that version of Love Will Tear Us Apart. Perfect song to end the episode, with Connell obviously contemplating what has happened and what might happen in the future. Come on, Connell, please act. There are some lovely parts to this episode, especially the pace of riding through the countryside, sitting around enjoying the summer, preparing food. It reminds me of my holidays with family in Italy, which I will be reprising this June.
Yay.
Heart emoji. However, I also recognise the opposite dread when Jamie appears, and he has ruined Italy, unfortunately. By the way, I get the dig about Marianne serving figs, but figs are perfectly normal. It's summer. I generally eat my body weight in them every summer here in Australia. I will always defend my right to eat figs. Rita, is there going to be any happiness in this story? I really need it. Prayer emoji. Sorry for the long emails this week, but Jamie made me do it. Ciao, ciao, Maria.
Oh, thanks, Maria.
Thanks, Maria, and no happiness anytime soon.
Yeah.
What is that line from Harry Potter? You will suffer, blah, 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 but you'll be happy about it? What's that quote?
Oh, yes. When they are getting their tea leaves read. Yeah, so you'll suffer, but you'll be happy about it.
That's the whole of normal people. It's like, yeah, it'll hurt, but...
Yeah. So, what's coming up next time? Well, in episode 9, Marianne pursues an unhealthy relationship while studying abroad.
Oh, lucky. Something new and different for her.
I mean, what other kind of relationship would she be pursuing? Yeah. And then back in Dublin, Connell enjoys an uncomplicated relationship with Helen.
I'd put uncomplicated in air quotes if I were them.
Yeah. So we will have the opportunity to delve a little more deeply into that relationship. If you are reading along with the episode, then this episode covers page 185 to 199, or chapter 14 in the audiobook.
Okay, that is all from us this episode. We'll be back soon, or next week. You know, who knows?
Sometime in the not too distant future.
We'll be back in a period of time that is not too distant, discussing the much more bleak but still beautiful landscape of Sweden.
Sweden!
Yeah. Sorry to anybody who's Dish.
Yeah.
I'm about to mispronounce a lot of Swedish names next week.
Oh, God.
We're really
Time to
taking
practice.
a world tour and just, destroying people's languages. If you want to get involved in the podcast, you can email us at inthebooksnetwork@gmail.com. Please help us pronounce names. If you have some corrections,
yes.
we're very willing to be told how to say things. We're also on Instagram, so please follow if you want fun bonus content and updates on when the hell the podcasts are happening. If you enjoyed the pod, please rate, review, and tell your friends. Thank you, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.